Hi, long range hunting. Today we're going to be talking about rifles for long range hunting. Now, this was actually the first video I ever did for the channel. I'm revisiting a lot of the old videos. Hi, long range hunting. Today we're going to be talking about caliber and weapon selection. Back then I was using a pretty crappy editing program that I don't actually use anymore except for specific stuff. And I was just basically had just moved here. I was videoing all these videos just sitting in my recliner. It was basically like a video podcast of me just talking. So I didn't have all the fancy stuff I have today, the cameras, the examples, lighting, all that different stuff. So I'm revisiting a lot of these old videos to give you guys quality videos that meet the quality of the content. So today we're going to be covering different options for long range. Now, in the game of precision rifles, you have 4 different types. You have factory, you have semi-custom, you have custom, and then you have prefit barrels. And we're going to dive into all of those. Okay, we're going to start with factory rifles. Now, just because they are the cheapest doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to do it. With today's advances in technology, gunsmithing, etc., you can get some really accurate factory rifles. Savage is on the bottom end. If you want to go with a budget rifle that is extremely accurate, Savage is your one. There are downsides as far as getting cheaper stuff. The stocks are cheaper. I'm not a big fan of the AccuTrigger. I really dislike that trigger. I've seen a lot of issues with it, a lot of failures. And so you get what you pay for, but for the money, they shoot lights out. So there's a lot of cosmetics and stuff that I don't like. But end of the day, they are a very accurate rifle. Once you get into the factory side of the top tier is what I would consider like Bagheera. Now, a big bonus with Bagheeras, and it's something I recommend for a lot of people, is it's a 700 clone. Now, what does that mean? Remington is one of the biggest names in precision. From custom rifles using 700 actions that are true and blueprinted to just Remington rifles. Before they went downhill with their quality control, they had really accurate rifles. They still have some in their top tier stuff, but the amount of accessories that are available, especially for the precision shooter, going with a 700 clone action opens up doors. So basically you can have an improved Remington 700. Bagheera's got a better one, and there's other companies that also have those. And it also allows you all those options. So you have the same stock options, trigger options, everything that you could imagine, rails, all that. But you have a better action that doesn't need any modifications. And most of the custom actions out there are actually 700 clones. So they'll take the exact same parts once you get into the custom world. So cost is on your side, but again, you don't get the same amount of quality when you're doing that. And so when starting out, or you just want to run a factory rifle, there are downsides to it. So yes, it's the cheapest way to get into it, but not all the parts are there. There's not the same attention to detail that there is with other rifles once you get into the custom world and all that. And the other real downside to them is twist rates. You're really stuck on what that company has for twist rates. And so a lot of them, take the 308s. The old school traditional was a 1 in 12. That is not an ideal twist rate, and so a lot of companies are switching to a 1 in 10 now. Prior to them doing that just recently, though, you had to get into the custom world or have a new barrel threaded on to get a faster, better twist like a 1 in 10. Now, you can get some really accurate factory rifles. One of them is the Remington 705R. Now, Remington's got a couple of models that have some really good shooters. They're their top-end stuff. The rest of it I really don't recommend just because of all the quality control issues. And even their top tier, I'm not exactly happy with. I do have one Remington 705R in 308. And ironically, with all my custom guns and everything, my second longest kill shot was on a mule deer in Idaho at 715 yards with that gun. I had just got that gun, ended up running out to Badlands, hung out with Bobby a little bit during a class, had him spot for me, ran that gun out, got my data. About a month later, ran up to Idaho and was hunting, spotted a mule deer around 1,500 yards away, my buddy Gary did, and we put it on the stock. Burn area, so it was really, really open, ended up closing the distance to 715 yards, and just laid down the smackdown. Was running a 168 grain AMAX, which the new version is the ELD match, and that deer never moved. I hit it and its head literally just flopped. I mean, it dropped dead on the spot, never moved, 715 yards, and that was a absolutely crazy hunt, crazy weather, crazy conditions, everything. And that gun delivered. He ended up shooting his buck with my rifle too at 200 yards. He shot a really nice mule deer. So you can get it done with the factory. Are they as accurate as a custom gun? No. Can you get ones that are plenty accurate? Yes. But you're really going to want to do your research, and you really want to have a top quality optic and other stuff on there. I mean, for that shot, I was running a Night Force optic, a couple $1,000s. And so you really need to have your components there on top. Also, something I recommend is really swapping out the triggers. That is one real downside with factory rifles, is just absolutely crappy triggers. The 40X trigger that was originally in the Remington rifles was absolutely phenomenal up there with, a lot of custom triggers. And then they redid it because of a couple morons and some lawsuits of guys that were taking it beyond its limits and then trying to blame Remington because they did something wrong and didn't want to take responsibility. And so they changed the design. It's crap now, but I really recommend anybody who gets a factory rifle for precision long range hunting, swap the trigger out. Especially if you get a Remington 700 clone, you get a Bagheera, drop a Trigger Tech Diamond in there. If you have a side bolt release or, a Trigger Tech Special, if you have the bottom release, they're absolutely phenomenal triggers, best on the market. Or just another really good trigger. That way you're not having to deal with heavy, sloppy triggers. The other good benefit, though, of a factory rifle is generally you can get it right away. There's not any type of a wait. Unless you're just waiting to get it in stock or it's just been released, something like that. Your store is trying to get it, but the majority of the time you can get that rifle right away or within a matter of days. All right, let's dive into semi-custom rifles. Now, what is this? Well, there's two types. One is where you have a company that does semi-custom rifles. Bagheera has the Premier line, which is basically that. You can get other companies that have similar things, and basically it's a rifle with better components from the factory that has that attention to detail, and you're going to get better accuracy. And it's kind of in that mid-range. So you have your low end, the cost of a factory precision rifle. Then you have your in between, your semi-custom, and then you have your custom. And so you have that difference in price. This is kind of in the middle. Generally speaking, for a semi-custom rifle from the factory, you're looking at around $2,000 plus. So usually in that $2,000 mark is where you're going to find these. Now, they can be really, really good rifles and a great way to do it. The other way is actually taking your factory rifle. Now, this can be done prior to you getting it, or you can do it yourself. If you do it yourself, what you're going to do is take that buy a barrel blank, which you're going to buy a barrel and you're going to have a gunsmith spin that barrel up. So you're getting a matched barrel like you're getting with a custom rifle, and they're spinning it on, which that is where your accuracy is really coming from. It's not from, you know, your stock or any of that. There are components that go and aid in accuracy. The main factor in accuracy, though, is your barrel. So, you know, having the barrel, that's where the magic happens. So getting a good barrel can be night and day. So you can take that factory rifle that's shooting okay, have a gunsmith spin up a barrel, head space it, true your action if it needs to. You're going to be taking a factory rifle and dropping, you know, $800 to $1,500 depending on what all you have done, and then you're getting basically a custom rifle as far as what it's going to shoot. So you have a semi-custom rifle. So the benefit of doing this or buying the other one, it's not as expensive as a full custom rifle. You can tailor it a little bit and kind of mess with it, and it's going to give you really good accuracy. So if you're not quite as far as the budget of where you want to go with the full custom, you have a rifle you really like, but the accuracy isn't there and you want to increase accuracy, so you get a new barrel spun up and have them, you know, bed the action, etc. It's a great way to do it and get a lot of accuracy out of that rifle. A good benefit too of doing this is you can pick your twist. So you're not sitting there, you have your factory rifle essentially, if you do it that way, and when you go to put it on, you can pick your cartridge, your twist rate, your barrel length, and so it allows you a little bit of customability in order to make that a little bit more yours and give it ideal results for what you need for your twist rates. The other benefit of this is you don't have the long wait times of a custom rifle. Now, depending on how it is, if you get the ones that are straight from the factory, and that, you know, like the Premiers from Bagheera, stuff like that, generally speaking, you can just get those. There might sometimes be a wait, but if they do, it's usually really short. Now, if you go the route of getting your rifle into a gunsmith and have a new barrel spun on, that can usually take, you know, a few months depending on how fast they can turn it out. I really recommend if you do this, don't just go to the average gunsmith that says you can do it. Not all gunsmiths are alike. Trust me, I have had some terrible work done by gunsmiths who say that they were good quality, and then you end up having to take it to another gunsmith to unscrew what that gunsmith screwed up. So that can, it's better to just spend the money, get it done right, and go with a reputable person. Now that usually, again, I'll say realistically 0 to 3 months. It just depends on what your relationship with it is, their workload, etc. But semi-custom is a great way, whether you're purchasing it like the Premiers, or if you're taking your gun that you love and simply having it accurized, basically a new barrel, all that, and getting that gun up to par for the most potential accuracy that you can get out of it without dumping the money for a full custom. All right, let's talk about custom rifles. Now, this is the best you're going to get. It's the best components, it's the best actions, stocks, barrels. It's fit together by a gunsmith to absolute perfection, the tightest tolerances, and so you're going to get the best results. Now, when you're dealing with a full custom, a real full custom, not, you know, one that somebody's modified, you get basically a blank sheet. They say, this is what we have, or you say to that gunsmith, you contact them and say, hey, I want this stock, I want this barrel, I want this action, and you build that rifle. Now, some will have rifles that people have canceled. They either couldn't pay or decided, you know, whatever the case might be, and they want to get rid of them. So you can get that. So it's not going to be to what you want, but it's still a custom rifle. You know, rifles ready to ship is what some of them call them. But when you deal with a custom like this, it is absolutely the best you can get. Spend the money, get a good gunsmith, get, you know, somebody reputable, because there are ones that are doing out there for cheap, and you're going to get what you pay for. And if you're getting somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, you might as well have just done a semi-custom. So this is absolutely exactly what you want. You're getting the best actions. This is a Stiller action. It's absolutely smooth as butter. It functions perfectly. And it's a phenomenal action. I really like the stiller I have on here. This is a Krieger 24-inch barrel. This is a Macmillan stock, and this is exactly how I wanted it built. Now, there are downsides to doing a full custom. One, cost. You're looking at, generally speaking, $3,000 to $6,000 for the rifle alone. That depends really on what you're having done as far as the rifle itself. It depends on who's building it. Now, there are some that are what I would call stupidly overpriced, and that would be Gunworks. Now, people are always surprised I'm not a fan of Gunworks just because, you know, long range, but I really don't like them. They make nice rifles, but what a lot of people don't realize is, yes, they make nice rifles, but it's the same thing that Best of the West is making. Best of the West and Gunworks were originally the same thing, and they ended up separating and created Gunworks. Well, Gunworks makes the same rifles for twice the price. So if you really want a rifle like that, why are you going to go spend 10, 12 grand when you go spend 5 or 6 or whatever it cost with Best of the West? I mean, it's the same thing. For some reason, they doubled their price. Or you can just go with another custom gunsmith and give them that layout, you know, a carbon fiber barrel, a lightweight carbon fiber stock, and they'll build it for you. So you don't have to go with Best of the West or Gunworks. There's other ones that you can have the same type of rifle built, but if you're really looking for the Gunworks and Best of the West, just go Best of the West. It's the same damn thing. You know, an issue though with custom rifles, unlike a factory where, you know, you're getting it right away or within a matter of days, you know, a semi-custom, you're either getting it right away or within a few months. Generally speaking, 6 months to a year is the wait time on a custom rifle from a reputable gunsmith. So it's not a quick turnaround. Is it worth it? Absolutely. It is absolutely worth getting a custom rifle, especially, you know, people think of it in very small increments, which at 100 yards it is. You can get a factory rifle that'll shoot, you know, half M away, and then you can get this that shoots a quarter M away, and people are going, oh, it's only this much different. Yeah, that is, but when you start really getting out at range, especially for long range hunting, that magnifies. And so getting a good rifle is going to really make a difference of your grouping. That group size is really going to dictate how far that you can shoot, how far that you can accurately be. The smaller that group size is, the more accurate you are, the farther you can engage, and even at those closer distance, the more accurate you can be. And so a custom is really where in the long range game is going to make a difference. Don't get me wrong, like I said, you can get very accurate factory rifles, but they're still not going to beat out one of these rifles, a custom. Now, have I seen it happen? Yes, but that wasn't so much the rifle itself. That was the marksman behind. I've seen my brother spank 3 guys running custom rigs that were $12,000 total with a Savage rifle with a $300 scope on it. But that wasn't the rifles that were getting beat by the Savage. That was, he's an incredible marksman, and he was able to beat subpar marksmen. So even though they had the fancy rifle, he was better than they were. Now, if you put him on both rifles and shoot it, which he did, those guns in his hand were far more accurate than that Savage. So a lot of it has to do with the individual also. But if you're looking strictly at the rifles, there is a big difference. And the further you go out, the more that's going to be a factor. So that's kind of something you got to look at of what you want to do. You know, does it cost more? Yes. Is it longer wait times? Yes. Is it worth it to get exactly what you want of the best, you know, absolute best? Yes, it is very, very worth it. All right, now let's dive into our final one, and that is pre-fit barrels. Now, what is this? This is a barrel that's been pre-fit to an action. Now, this is the best you can get. Now, this is an impact action with a Studeville barrel, and that is absolutely probably the best combination out there. Now, what works with this is this action, because it is a custom action, is so tight on those tolerances that Wade can take these barrels and set them on a action and pre-fit them for the headspace, you know, all that for that gun. And so what you do is, instead of you paying a gunsmith all these labor fees in order to get a custom gun done, you can do it yourself with just a few tools. So basically, you're going to buy your stock or your chassis, you're going to buy what action you want, you're going to order your pre-fit barrel. Now, depending on availability, it can take a little bit to get them, but instead of him just cranking out a bunch of custom guns, he can crank out a bunch of these barrels, fit to another impact action, and it's going to fit yours. And so once you get all this, it's very quick. I did it for a buddy, slapped this one together, and it took me all of 5 minutes to get it set up, and including the scope and everything, 10 minutes. It took me 10 minutes to assemble that gun from, you know, everything in boxes, trigger, stock, all that, to complete rifle, torqued and ready to go. It's really simple. All you need is a barrel vise, you need an action wrench and a torque wrench, and it's pretty simple. So it works really effectively. Now, the benefit of this is it cuts the cost down. Depending on which pre-fit you go, proofs are around $400, I think. These are around, I think, $975. And what it allows you to do is, instead of having multiple guns, you can just run multiple barrels. So you have this, if I want to order 3 barrels, one in a 6 Creedmoor, one in a 6.5 Creedmoor, and one in a 308, I can order 3 barrels. And then all I've got to do, if I want to swap cartridges, is simply swap barrels. All I'm going to do is pull one off, put the next one on, torque it correctly, and good to go. Now, if you're getting a cheaper one, these come with a guarantee for headspace. If you don't, you want to get no-go and go gauges as far as testing your headspace. But it's very, very quick. So you have that ability to change cartridges very, very quickly and effectively. So you don't need 3 different guns. You can spend the money, instead of getting 3 scopes, 3 stocks, 3, you know, full setups as far as customs or factory or semis. You can spend the money, get one really good scope, all the best components, and then you just buy different barrels and you just change them as you need. And you can do the same thing with stocks. So you can pick up, if you want a lightweight setup to run, as far as if you're going for mountain hunting and then you want a heavier one for competition. If you're doing competition, run it in the heavier setup, and when you go to hunt, simply spin on the carbon fiber barrel, slap on the carbon fiber stock, and you're ready to go. So it saves money in the long run. And if, let's say, you shoot out a barrel, guess what? Order a new one when you're going to be running out, or have a couple on stock. Whenever you shoot out a barrel, pull it off, spin the next one on, good to go. And so you're not paying all those labor costs. So one, you're doing all of it yourself. It's super easy. It's not complicated or something you should have to worry about. It's really, really easy, and it saves money. So depending on the components you get, you can have it in the same range of what you're paying to have a semi-custom done, but you're getting better components. And so it's really nice. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever go back to getting a full custom job when I can just use this. And this is actually my most accurate rifle. It's an absolute tack driver. You know, I took it out to the range in Oklahoma prior to my Oklahoma hunt, and was just absolutely stacking them. Was doing headshots at different distances, shooting very small targets out to was it 1350. So really, really having a good time as far as shooting very small targets. It's very accurate. Trued by ballistics out there. The original low development shot lights out, averaging quarter MOA as far as 3 groups. And that was right in a row, shooting 3 different groups. It wasn't trying to pick the best. It was bam, bam, bam. And then ended up dropping 2 deer, shot a buck at 516 yards. And I shot a doe at 513 yards, you know, point of aim, point of impact. So it's a phenomenal gun. I can modify it as I need and change things out. It's very quick, it's very easy, and it's very, very accurate. And so there's no need to sit there and pay, because a lot of what you're paying for with a custom gunsmith, you're paying about half generally for components, and the other half is labor. With this, you're not paying all those labor fees. You will on the barrel, as far as, you know, it is a little bit more than what a blank costs, because they've got to, you know, cut that barrel, they've got to chamber it, headspace it, all that. But you're not paying all the other labor fees included in that. So it definitely helps you as far as if you want a full custom rifle that is every bit as accurate as any other custom rifle out there, you want to do it yourself and you want to save money, this is the route I recommend. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, not all actions can do this. There are a couple out there. Impact is by far my favorite and what I consider to be the best. It's an absolutely phenomenal action. I absolutely love this setup. This is my dream setup. Years and years of shooting all different actions and, you know, barrels and all this. This is hands down the best I've ever had. And when I had this done and put it together, I knew exactly what I wanted for each piece. And it's a Remington 700 clone. So again, you get the, you know, the best trigger options, the best stocks, all that. This stock is a foundation. It doesn't require any bedding. And so you don't even need bedding work. You can do chassis that don't need bedding. There's certain stocks like this that don't need bedding. And so you're not having to have a lot of things done that you are with other rifles. And so if you really want the custom, and even if you want to do the semi-custom, I just recommend spending the money and just doing this. I mean, honestly, it's going to save you in the long run. There's no need to have a bunch of different rifles. You can master this and shoot it in all different. It's kind of like, you know, a lot of guys, when I shot speed steel competitively, would get a 22 upper for their pistol. Basically, they would slide the upper off and put a 22. So it's the same trigger, it's the same grip, same feeling, but they're getting that trigger time in while saving money on ammunition. And then they would just put their regular upper on, practice, and then also go out and compete with it. So they were getting more trigger time in. This is kind of that same equivalent of, you can pop different things on, you can shoot all day long, and you know, if you don't want to run a certain barrel because it's a barrel burner or a certain cartridge, whatever the case might be, you want to run one and then switch over to the other, whatever you want to do, it's adaptable to you, it's more cost effective, and the results are there. You get the absolute highest quality of equipment, and it's built to you, for you, and by you. So absolutely phenomenal option. I can't speak highly enough of this, and it kind of bridges the gap between a factory and a full custom. In conclusion, really it's up to you what you want to spend, how you want to do it, what option you want to go with. I highly recommend, though, that you go for the best that you can. Buy once, cry once. The reason I say this, and I did this for years, it cost me a ton of money, I've seen a lot of other people do it, is they will upgrade. So they'll start off this, say, you know, $1,000, $600 to $1,000, and then they'll upgrade a $1,500 one, and then they'll get rid of that one, and then they'll go up to $2,000, and then they'll go up to $3,000, and by the time they actually get to the product they want, that custom rifle, they could have bought it twice or 3 times sometimes, depending on how many times you upgrade. All the while, what they're using isn't as good and it's not as enjoyable. I used to own a lot of guns, a lot of different stuff, and it was just basic. And I found that I got rid of all those and started getting really good guns and just having a few that I actually enjoy that more, because I'm using the best equipment, I'm getting the best results, and it's more enjoyable. I'm not having to just, you know, use basic stuff that isn't as effective, it's cheap. I'm using the best quality stuff to get the best results possible. So buy once, cry once. If you are going to get something and you want to end up modifying it, you know, getting a factory rifle and wanting to go semi-custom or even going semi-custom, I strongly recommend going with a Remington 700 clone action. That way you have that massive amount of aftermarket parts in order to modify that gun exactly how you want. I know multiple people with Tikkas, and their Tikka shoots good, but there's really no aftermarket options, and so they really are stuck on what they can do to modify to increase performance. So ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to get a factory rifle and use it, which I've shown that you can. I I've killed a lot of animals with factory rifles, short range, long range, whether you go semi-custom, whether you go with a full custom build, or you want to go ahead and just get a pre-fit option, which is you are putting that together. You're saving some money on, not having a full custom as far as getting that built, but you have the same exact quality. You're just doing parts, you're saving labor, and then you have the ability to modify it yourself and do everything yourself. So out of those four, whatever you end up wanting to do, do you get that. Spend the money however you want, but I really do recommend that, if you're not going to go with a custom, or even if you go with a custom, go with a 700 clone action. There's lots of them out there. The majority of the custom actions are just for those available options. If you're going with a gun that you plan on modifying to make a semi-custom, again, Remington 700 clone actions. You don't have to get a Remington 700 action, but get a clone at least. That way you have those options. So ultimately, it's up to you what you're going to get. Now, some quick updates. I'm going to get back to the gel testing soon. I actually got a couple new bullets in, and it'll be interesting to test. I've got the Norma, what is it? It's the Tip Strikes and the Norma Bond Strikes in from a buddy of mine. And so those will be next up for the testing. And we'll have some other projectiles in there too. We're going to revisit some. We're going to start adding shoulders, getting lower impact velocities, and showing you guys a different range of those bullets, as well as testing new bullets. For those who don't know, we have started a podcast. I'm going to put the link in the description below to that podcast if you guys want to tune into that, or for those who prefer listening to a podcast. So everybody, appreciate you tuning into this. Be safe out there. Happy hunting.
Hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notification bell so you won't miss out on any future video, and happy hunting.